Welcome everyone to our spring cooking class. We are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for being here this evening with us. We greatly appreciate it. My name is Dakota Bogner, and I have the pleasure of working with the CSU Alumni Association. And thank you in advance to the Kendall Reagan Nutrition Center, who is here with us this evening to instruct you on some amazing recipes. As a reminder for everyone, this is a webinar format, so you are all automatically muted with your cameras off. If you have questions or comments throughout the class, please use the comment section and submit them there. We will keep a close eye on that and make sure to address them as we're able. To start things off, we would love to see in the comments section where you're joining from, and if you're an alum, what year you graduated, so that we can get to know you just a little bit better. Wherever you're tuning in from, we are so glad that you are here. Many of our attendees this evening are CSU Alumni Association members. Thank you so much to all of our members who are here this evening. Your membership really makes events like this possible. To learn more about membership and to explore all that the Alumni Association has to offer, we would love for you to download our mobile app, which you can do here on the screen. If you aren't a member yet, we hope that you will consider joining during CSU Day of Giving, which starts tomorrow, May 6th. During this 24-hour online giving event, CSU alumni, friends, faculty, and staff will come together to support student and alumni success, faculty research, and critical resources that will help encourage a brighter tomorrow. It's the perfect time to take your RAM Pride to the next level with a gift to the area that is most meaningful to you. I will include a link to learn more about Day of Giving in the comments here shortly. The CSU Alumni Association has many virtual events coming up, as well as many past event recordings that are available to you. So I will provide links in the comments here shortly to our events calendar, and so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Later on in the event, I will also include a link to a post-event survey. If you have a moment to fill that out, we would greatly appreciate your feedback. And now I will unshare my screen and add our wonderful presenters for this evening. I will let Lindsay, Annie, and Emily introduce themselves and then get started with the class.
Thank you, Dakota. Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay. I am a graduate student with CSU, and I am wrapping up my final year of working with the KRNC and attending CSU. So I'm so excited to be here with everybody tonight. A little background on kind of our cooking class. So these are going to be some really amazing kind of Central and Latin American flavors that we're working with. We are going to be doing a lot of onion, garlic, chili powder, peppers, a lot of our favorite flavors. Just kind of having a big fiesta moving through here. So I will let Emily and Annie introduce themselves. Annie, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. My name is Annie. I am a senior undergrad student, and I'm doing a practicum with the KRNC. So we help put on these cooking classes, and we also get to shadow the dietitians that work there. It's really awesome. And yeah, I'm excited to go through these recipes with you. They're really great, and they're also super simple. So there's nothing to be stressed about.
Awesome. Emily.
Well, I pretty much want to echo everything Annie said. I'm also a senior undergraduate student doing my practicum with the KRNC, and I've enjoyed it so much. And I'm really excited to have this cooking class with you all tonight.
Thanks, guys. So I just want to run through a couple of little kitchen tips and tricks, and then Annie's going to kick us off with the first recipe. So the first thing I always want to point out, I print my recipes. Having them in front of you on paper is so much better than having your phone, especially during these kind of gross times right now. So always remembering all the things that your phones are touching during the day, all the places we set our phones, and then you touch them, and then you touch your knife, and then you touch your food. I think it's just a really good way to kind of keep the kitchen even cleaner. The other thing is we're going to be using some sharp knives today. We're going to be cutting vegetables, cutting up a bunch of different things, and we're going to want to set our knives aside. That's awesome. What I usually try to do is set your knives at the very top of your cutting board. So faced away from you, not anywhere near the edge of the stove, near the edge of the counter. It just prevents accidents. I have animals running through my house, my kitchen all the time, and it's nothing like a big tail to knock a knife off onto your toe. So those are just some really quick, helpful reminders. So Annie is going to kick us off with our enchilada sauce, and then she's going to move us into some dark chocolate truffles, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get moving. Let me just get over here. Okay. So I have you propped up on my toaster, so it might be a little bit of a funky angle, but I just want to show you what kind of pot I'm using here. So I just have like a medium-sized pot. And we're going to go ahead and turn the oven on. We want to get that a little bit warm. I'm going to turn it on between 6 and 7, so medium, to get it warming up. And then really quickly, I want to show you guys how to cut up some garlic. So I'll move you down here to my cutting board. So a fun trick, if you aren't using pre-minced garlic, we can just use garlic cloves like this. And we're going to chop off this nubby end right here. That's the root end. And once again, we'll use our knife safety skills. And one thing that I've learned is you don't want to hold your knife like this. You always want to like kind of grip it like this, because this gives you, it might think that you have like some more stability like this, and it's kind of just like a natural position, but this gives you a lot more stability. So we're going to cut off the root ends of our 2 cloves of garlic. And then a fun trick is you're going to place your knife over it like this and then hit with the heel end of your hand, and it's going to smash it. We're just going to do one at a time. So smash it up like that. And then we'll do the other one. Yeah, and then the crispy skin will just kind of peel right off. Makes it super easy. So we'll go ahead and get that off of there, set it aside, and then we'll just do a mince. And one other thing about some basic knife safety is you always want to have this knuckle of your fingers up against the knife. You don't want your fingertips right next to it, just because that makes it a lot easier for you to cut yourself. So we always want to have like that blunt, or the nubby end of our knuckles like right up against there. All right, and then we'll just run our knife through it a couple times and get a mince. I'm sure most people know what minced garlic looks like, but it's really just like a pretty uneven chop, kind of like just little chunks. All right, and then I bet our pots are hot. So I'll move you back over this way. And we're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of oil, just any neutral oil. I'm using olive oil. You can use canola oil, really anything. So we'll dump that in, and we'll let that sit for just a minute and let that get warm. And then we're gonna add our garlic into the pot. I'm gonna go ahead and add mine. You can probably hear it sizzling. That's what we want. Then I'm just gonna grab a little spoon, any type of like spatula, wooden spoon, anything you want to use, and just give it a little stir. We're gonna let it cook for just a couple minutes. We don't want it to get overcooked or burnt. It's just gonna be fragrant. Everybody knows the smell of garlic cooking in the kitchen. It's one of the greatest smells ever. So that's what we want. It'll be a little bit golden, and you'll start to smell it. All right, so mine is looking a little bit golden, and I can definitely smell it. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. And then I'm going to add my flour. I have flour in here. I measured out 2 tablespoons, and I'm just going to add that in a little bit at a time and then give it a mix. This is what's going to make our sauce thick, so it's really important. All right, add a little more. Yeah. We're just going to mix that around. So mine's becoming like a thick paste. All right. So now I'm going to add in my veggie broth. You can use veggie broth or chicken broth. I measured out 2 cups already. And I also added in my red wine vinegar into here. So we're just going to pour that in. And then give it a stir. And then we're going to add in the key ingredient here, the red chili, ground red chili. And I also went ahead and added cumin and oregano into here. So we're just going to add that in now. And then give it a mix. We want to mix it up really good. All right, and then we're going to let that simmer. I'm also going to actually add a little bit of salt. That is always good. So just a little pinch of salt. And then we're going to let that sit and simmer for about 10 minutes. And while we're doing that, while we're letting it simmer, we actually can move on to start our truffles. I'm going to set a little timer to know when we take our sauce off of simmer. But then we can get started on our truffles. Okay. 10 minutes. All right. Let me pull up my recipe here. All right, so what we're gonna do is get a bowl. I'm gonna use this Pyrex actually because it's microwave safe, and I have my half a cup of heavy cream in here, and I'm gonna pour it into this Pyrex because we're gonna stick it in the microwave. And then I'm gonna add spices and vanilla because we have a spicy truffle today. So I have some cinnamon, and I'm just going to do a couple shakes in there. I love cinnamon, so I always add much more than the recipe calls for, but I don't want to go too overboard today. And we also have some cayenne, which I'm not going to go overboard on because that would be a little brutal. As good as spicy and chocolate can be, like, I'll just do one little shake in here. All right, and then I'm going to give that a mix. And just keep an eye on your enchilada sauce. Mine hasn't quite started simmering yet, but it should get there soon. And we just want like a light simmer, so just a few bubbles around in there, not like a full boil or anything. Okay, so this is my mixed heavy cream and spices. I'm going to stick that in the microwave for just a little, like 30 seconds maybe. We don't want it to boil, we just want it to get warm. Okay. And while that is warming, we are going to chop some chocolate. So I have 8 ounces of chocolate here, and we're just gonna chop it up and then put it into another bowl. If I can open this. Mine was already beeping. So I'm just going to leave that in there while we chop up our chocolate. And this does not have to be any perfect science. Just chop it up in small enough pieces that it will melt. And I'll move you down here as well. see. And then once again, just keep an eye on your enchilada sauce. Mine's starting to simmer. Yeah. So once it starts to break up, it'll be pretty easy to break into smaller chunks. I'm going to run my knife through it one more time. And once again, there's no perfect science to this. It's really hard to go wrong when you have chocolate and heavy cream and spices and anything. All right, so I'm going to transfer this into a bowl, which I need to grab. All right, 1 bar down. We'll do this one. And my enchilada sauce is simmering now, so we've got about 5 minutes left on the clock. All right, we'll chop this one. And then I'm going to go through it one more time just to get some smaller chunks. I'm going to break up some of these bigger ones once more. All right. We'll put that in there, and then I'm going to grab my warmed cream and spices and just pour that over it. If you think it needs a little bit more time, I might put mine in for just like 10 more seconds. And then dump that over. And then this is a reminder to check on your enchilada sauce. Make sure it's not boiling, but that we've just got a little simmer. All right. I'm going to give this guy just one more little stir. And then dump that in. All right. And I also realized that I did not add vanilla extract. So if you have not done that, add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract to your mixture of chocolate and cream and spices, and then give it a little stir. And your chocolate should be starting to melt. Mine sure is. It's going to be a lovely mixture. And if towards the end all of your chocolate is not mixed, we can just stick it back in the microwave for a few seconds, and it should get all mixed and combined and melted together. All right, we're going to let that sit for just a couple of minutes. Mine smells good already. I'm very excited. And we'll just do a little clean up here. Works well that these recipes are paired together because you can easily just like go back and forth between the two, and it helps because we'll have to refrigerate our chocolate for a little bit. So doing it in the beginning is really nice because then by the time we're done making all of our food, our truffles will be ready to assemble. Yeah, mine's starting to melt together. I might need to end up putting it in the microwave for like 15 seconds, but I think it'll be good. My enchilada sauce is coming together too. Smells amazing. We've made this enchilada bake before, and it's my roommates and I have, and it's amazing, and it feeds a lot of people, and there's tons of veggies. Flavors are awesome, so I'm very excited to do this today. All right, we just have about 1 more minute simmering the sauce, and then just a couple more minutes on the chocolate. And so we'll set aside the enchilada sauce when this is done simmering. And then what we're going to do is pour the chocolate mixture into a dish and then put it in the refrigerator. And that'll like harden up when we are making our next couple dishes. I'm going to go ahead and pop mine in the microwave for about 15 more seconds. All right. I think that will probably do it. Get that nice and melted. And once again, there's no perfect science, and it's really hard to go wrong with, okay, there is the timer for the enchilada sauce. I'm going to go ahead and give that one little stir, and then we're just going to set it aside. So I'll move it off the heat. And I'm going to cover mine with the lid just a little bit so it stays warm. All right. And then my chocolate is almost completely melted. Just gonna give it a couple more stirs. And what I was saying before the timer went off, it's very hard to go wrong with chocolate, vanilla, cream, spices, anything with chocolate. I feel like it's just going to turn out amazing. Okay, so I'm going to transfer this into this little dish right here, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. Make sure we get all that good stuff off the sides. It really should just be like a pretty thick chocolate liquid, because this is going to form, like it's going to solidify a little bit, so it's malleable, and we're just going to form it into little balls, and then we have chocolate truffles with a kick of cayenne for some fun. Okay. Just spread that out, and it's going in the fridge. All right, and we can move along to our next recipe. I think that we will be starting the enchilada bake.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to tilt us down, but to get started, so a couple of things I've already got going here. So I've got a large skillet. It does need to be pretty big, so even if you need to move up to kind of a stock pot, that's totally fine. But I've got a skillet sitting here warming up on medium. We'll turn it up a little bit, but right now let's go medium. I also just preheated my oven to 450. So if you need to step away for a second, go ahead and get your oven going. Mine takes forever to get to 450. So if you want to go ahead and do that. So we'll walk through the recipe really quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop up our veggies. So I've got my onion. I've got a zucchini, a green bell. You can use a red bell, orange, yellow, does not matter. Fun fact, it's all the same pepper. It's just different times of maturing on the vine. And once you take it off, they'll all turn the same color eventually. So, but I like green peppers. They're usually the cheapest, and I really like the flavor. We've also got a big beefsteak tomato. You can use small Romas. You could use cherry tomatoes. Does not matter. I just like a big one because it's easier to cut up. I've also got my 3 cloves of garlic here. You can absolutely use garlic from the jar. Totally fine. You can also use garlic powder. If you're going to go garlic powder, it's about a quarter or less, maybe an eighth of a teaspoon, is the equivalent of a regular clove. So totally fine to substitute. So now what we're going to start doing is chopping up our veggies. I think everybody can see my cutting board right here. Yes. So we're just going to start with our onion. If you guys don't watch Food Network, Rachel Ray is one of my favorite people for introducing to me the trash bowl. It is so nice to have an extra bowl sitting here on your counter for when you're chopping veggies and you're not having to go like back and forth to the trash can. So I always have my trash bowl here. And what we're going to do is just start chopping up our veggies. I'm going to start chopping and then put in a separate big bowl. We're not going to throw them in the skillet yet. So we're just going to put them in here. So we're going to start with our onion. If you guys have not cut onions before, everybody kind of has their own unique way, but I'll show you the way that I do it. It's the way I have found that works best for kind of keeping it together in one place. So I'm going to cut it straight through the middle. So we've got our onion, we've got our root head right here, and we've got the top of the onion right here. So I'm going to go right down the middle. And this is kind of a skinny sweet onion. If you're using a red onion, they're usually fatter, or even a white onion. And so then we're just going to peel all of the onion paper off. I'm going to put it in my little trash bucket. I want to keep the root top on. I think it's a really great way to just keep the onion together. So I pulled all of the paper off, and we're just going to leave this on here. I'm going to do the same thing to this one. So leaving the root end on, we're just going to pull off all the papers. Getting all of that off. And now it's sticky because my hands are covered in onions. There we go. And I am in Atlanta. I think a lot of you guys are still in Colorado. I was just in Colorado, but sweet onions are in season here. So I got a sweet onion because I love them, but a white onion or red onion will be totally fine. So what we're going to do now that we've got our 2 halves together, we're going to come in, and what we're actually going to do is go sideways. We're going to do lateral cuts this way. And I prefer to hold it, we're going to go just like this. And we're going to do lateral cuts just this way. And I'm going to hold it. We're not going to go all the way to the end. Just going straight through. And it holds it together back here. And then we're going to do cuts all the way through here. And I'm going to come around this way. Throw away our root head. Then we're just going to do a little dice. And this does not have to be a really small dice. This can absolutely be a thicker dice. It just depends on, how much onion flavor you like. We're going to do the full onion. I tend to do a smaller dice, but because we're not, wrapping them up into tortillas, it can be any size that you prefer. We don't have to make them fit in there. So again, just coming in, giving everything a good rough chop. And eventually we're going to scoop this into your bowl. So if you want to kind of scoop as we go, that's totally fine. Okay. And we had another grad student, Brittany, who, if you've ever had a class with her, taught us that the proper way to cut with your knife to avoid any kind of, carpal tunnel is to actually have, instead of having your finger like this across the blade, it's to actually pinch. So instead I've got pinched fingers right here. And it puts the weight kind of back here instead of up on the forward part of your hand. And when I remember to do that correctly, it is absolutely helpful. Gives you a lot more leverage there to cut through it. Okay. Once you're done cutting your onion, you're again just going to dump this in our bowl. We're not moving to the skillet yet because we want to get everything in at the same time. So we're just doing a rough cut here. We're going to move on to our pepper. So now I've got all of this cut up nicely here and diced. Just going to dump it in our bowl. Okay. Now we're going to move to our bell pepper. And, you know, there's not really a right or wrong way to cut a bell pepper. I tend to just go around the outside so that we're just kind of avoiding that middle core. So, you know, just kind of like 4 cuts around the outside, and then we can just pull out the seeds. This is not like a jalapeno where seeds are spicy, you know, so if you get a few seeds in here, that's okay. We're going to toss out the big seed ball in our trash bucket and then just clean it up a little bit, you know, get some of those white parts out of here. And if you want to use a smaller knife for this, it is preferred. You know, you don't want to be throwing around a giant knife. We're just going to come in here, keep cutting, dump in the seeds. And then I'm just going to do some long cuts. And then we're going to do the same thing with the onions. We're just going to dice. And again, this does not have to be uniform. You know, it's going in a casserole style dish, so nobody will know the difference if your bell pepper pieces are different sizes. And it is pretty. If you had like the small bell peppers, you can do like, you know, the different colors. I love having different colors, especially if you're using them for dipping. It's hard to find the small ones sometimes though, and you definitely don't need 3, you know, giant bell peppers, at least not for this recipe. Okay. So if you haven't already, adjust your skillet. I have mine on about medium. You can have it on, you know, medium high, depending on the size of your skillet. We do want to get kind of a quick cook on it. So definitely higher than medium low, but on mine, because I'm using a big cast iron skillet, it's going to be fine on medium. That's pretty hot. Some pans don't hold heat that well, so medium high is good too. Okay, almost done with my bell pepper here. Okay, so I've got a rough dice on my bell pepper. I'm just going to toss that in the same bowl with the onions. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the zucchini. And the way I like to do a zucchini, I like to go long ways and then go kind of this way. I think the main goal is to always get a flat surface when you're cutting veggies. So, you know, now I have a flat surface. Nothing's going to be rocking as I go back and forth. So I'll do one more line kind of straight through here. And then I'm just going to do a dice straight down this way. Zucchini is going to cook a lot faster than our pepper and onion. So if you want to do bigger pieces on this, that is totally fine. Because we are going to kind of throw it all in together, but then it's going in the oven. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, you know, everything didn't get quite as done as you would normally do it, that's totally fine. Because we're going to bake it casserole style for like a good 20, 30 minutes. Okay, so I've got a rough cut on my zucchini. Going in. So the recipe says that we're going to throw our garlic in with this. You can absolutely throw your garlic in with your onions and peppers. That's what I'm going to do. A lot of people like to start their oil and throw the garlic in for just like 20 seconds and then throw the rest of the veggies in. That's also fine. The goal is to never get your garlic too hot and never get your garlic brown. That's going to get that kind of bitter taste that we're not really looking for. We want to just when you can start to smell it, then it's perfect. So I'm going to throw mine in with the zucchini and the garlic and the onions, and I think you can totally do the same. So cutting garlic, I think the best way to do it is we're going to cut off this end, and then we're going to squish it with our knife. So I just cut off the little ends of it. Now I've just got, oh, where's my camera? Right here. And then I'm going to hit it. Now, if you have a really narrow knife, be very careful. I prefer to do it with like the back of a spoon is probably the safer way to do it, or even like a big spatula. And all it does is really release the paper from the outside super easy. So now I've got my naked garlic clove, and I'm just going to put mine in a garlic press, or a garlic squisher is what I usually prefer to call it. Not the appropriate name, but it is quicker. If you prefer to dice your garlic, totally fine. Again, if you have pre-squished garlic in a jar, also fine. All I'm going to do is press mine into here. And I'm going to do that a couple more times with my other 2 cloves. Garlic, as Annie mentioned, is kind of a per preference food, right? If you're a super garlic head and you want to put 8 cloves in here, no judgment. If you're like, I don't need my breath smelling like this, don't put any garlic in. Totally your choice. I love garlic, so I'm going with 3 because I think the recipe was dead on. But again, don't be shy with garlic if it's like you're loving it. So I'm just going to do these 2 in here together and get them all squished up. Hoping my pan isn't totally on fire. I'm going to turn this down a little. Okay, we're going to go in the garlic squisher together. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're ready to transfer to our pan. We're going to do about a tablespoon of canola oil. You can absolutely do olive oil. We usually recommend it not for high heat. So if you have canola oil, I think that's the better choice here. I'm going to do canola oil because it's what I've got on hand. You could also do coconut oil, avocado oil, like whatever your preference is. I'm going to do about a tablespoon in the bottom here. Bring us back up to medium. And then I'm just going to dump our veggies in. So we've got our whole thing right here. And we're going to let this go for about 5 minutes. So I'm looking at the time here. Give it a good stir. If you want to salt or pepper, now is a great time. When you start cooking your veggies, I would do a little salt. And when you finish, I would do a little salt. It's kind of a good time when the veggies getting heated up and the cell pores are opening. The cell walls, are opening. Really absorb a bunch of that salt. Okay, so while this is going, we're going to get about 5 minutes. I'm going to do my tomato. So if you've got a big tomato, we're just going to slice it and then dice it. If you've got cherry tomatoes, I would just half them. You know, if you've got Romas, I would do a dice on those as well. So cutting off our top here, and then we're just going to go into slices. And tomatoes, as we know, don't need nearly as much cook time. Basically, what we're doing with these is just warming them up before we go in the oven. So I'm just doing a dice on these. I do like cherry tomatoes. You know, they have the little sweet orange ones, the little yellow ones. You can get such a dynamic flavor. I think if you mix up the colors, and especially the seasons, you know, we're coming up to tomato season, at least here in Georgia. I've got my, 5 tomato plants. I know in Colorado, you guys tend to not plant until after Mother's Day. That was a shock for me moving to Colorado. I was like, what do you mean? But it's because we get snow. Okay. I'm going to give this another good stir, and then we're going to toss our tomatoes in. And while we are waiting for this to cook, I've also got my beans. I've got 2 cans of beans, and these are just black beans. You can do low sodium or no sodium if you're watching your salt. So I just did a quick drain on these. These have pop tops, so it was super easy to drain. If yours don't have pop tops, feel free to dump them in a colander, give them a little rinse. So we're just gonna dump these in at the same time as our tomatoes, put that in my trash bucket. And there's nothing wrong with the liquid on beans. It does tend to have a little more sodium, but mostly we just don't want it to be that juicy, right? We just want it to kind of solidify a little more than that. So we're at about 3 minutes. We give this like 1 more minute, and then we're going to toss our tomato and beans in for just 1 minute. We're basically just trying to heat it up at this point. My whole kitchen smells like garlic and onions right now. Okay, I think it's about time. We're going to toss in our beans and our tomatoes. And again, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, my peppers don't look totally cooked, that is absolutely fine. We want a little bit of crunch in them right now because they're going in the oven and they're going to heat up again and they're going to continue to heat. Like a lasagna and other casseroles you pull out of the oven, it's going to be like lava hot for a while. So there's a lot of carryover heat that happens, a lot of carryover cooking. So we're just tossing in those tomatoes and beans. Give it a good stir. Let everybody heat up for like 1 minute to 2 minutes. If it cools down a ton, like if your tomato is cold or whatever, you can give it another minute to start hearing that sizzling again. So you can do, this is a pretty dynamic enchilada recipe. So, you know, the pretty basic definition of enchiladas is a meat and or veggies with and or cheese wrapped in a corn tortilla with enchilada sauce, which is pretty loose, right? You could put meat in here. This would be a great time to put like a ground turkey, or if you have like a shredded chicken. I think the vegetarian version is just as flavorful, so I like to do it with just the black beans. I've also done some like sofritas with tofu. If you're a Chipotle fan, going and getting the sofritas, you can Google recipes for that. It's tofu, but it's like really well flavored tofu and kind of crumbled, so it's got that meat texture. Those are great additions to this as well. You could either substitute a can of beans, you could substitute all the beans if you're not a bean person, which I totally understand. Okay, so while this is going, I'm going to pull down. I've got the same big bowl that I had my veggies in originally. I'm just going to pull this down, and what we're going to do is pull this off the heat, put it in our big bowl, and we're going to put half a cup of enchilada sauce and get it really mixed up in there. This is going to give it such great flavor throughout. You know, it's not just going to be like layered on top. You're really going to get that enchilada flavor. And Annie, I wish that I was in your kitchen and I had fresh enchilada sauce that you just made. I made this one a little bit ago, but this enchilada sauce recipe, like we saw, is so easy. It's so easy to just put in the fridge and keep, you know, for a few days. If you're not quite ready to make this recipe, you can make it ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead, this is really heavy, and just dump this into our bowl, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Okay, turn my heat off, and like I mentioned, we're going to do half a cup of our enchilada sauce. We've got 2 cups here. We're just going to do half a cup. It's just really kind of going to get the flavor mixed in there so that it's nice and layered. If it feels a little runny, that's totally fine. The tortillas are going to absorb some of that. The baking is going to absorb some of that. It also sets up really nicely after you pull it out. Again, kind of like lasagna. Just give it a minute to set up before you serve it. And it turns into a perfect little square. So now we're going to assemble. And what I'm going to do, since everything around here is hot now, we're going to move this. We're going to move our cutting board. And I've got here a 9x13. And what makes this recipe so nice and easy is that instead of rolling and stuffing our corn tortillas, you know, into the traditional little enchilada shape, we're going to layer. It's the perfect casserole. It is so easy to make ahead. You don't have to worry about, you know, having to roll them all in little things and keeping them together and toothpicking them. So I'm going to take 6 of our tortillas and we're just going to layer on the bottom. If you want to come up a little bit on the sides, it's totally fine. They overlap. They definitely overlap. That's perfect. It's going to absorb more of our flavor. But we're going to do 6 on the bottom here. Okay. And now what we're going to do is spread about our filling on top of this. I'm going to grab a big spoon. If you have a deeper spoon, I recommend it because this is kind of hard to get out, and especially because the bowl is hot, so be very careful. If you need to grab a pot holder, definitely do it. But I'm going to do about half of this, and I'm just going to hold the bowl and kind of spoon it out. You can always come back in and smooth it, so don't feel like it has to be perfect. This is one of those easy recipes where presentation is much less important. So we're just going to spread, spread, spread. Looks perfect. You know, going all the way to the edges, getting all the deliciousness in here. Okay, then we're going to do another layer of our tortillas. And we're just going to do 6 more. If they're torn, that's fine. If they're not the prettiest ones, that's fine. Again, the goal is not pretty here. It's just going to be so tasty and so comfy. Okay, so I've got my 6 more. And then we're just going to do the rest of the filling. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, just kind of letting it come out, scooping it out with my spoon. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. And I'm with Annie. I've made this several times before. And my roommate and my family, they were just like, are you making that enchilada bake again? Because it lasts forever. This is so many servings. And it's so easy to put in the fridge and just reheat for lunch. Okay. So now under this layer, I'm going to take all of my cheese. Not all of it. I've got a whole bag here of Monterey Jack cheese. I'm going to take some hefty handfuls, and we're going to layer just right across here. Now, I'm a cheese fiend. You can go more or less with the cheese. I love it. I don't think you can ever have too much cheese. So I like to do a layer here. You can do a layer below this. Once we've got that with our cheese, we're going to do one final layer with our tortillas. It's just going to kind of be that top crispy layer. And it's what gives it that kind of reminiscent, you know, enchilada flavor, where you remember like the crispy tortillas with the enchilada sauce. So we're coming right back over the top. Whoops, this one fell apart. Just like that. So then on top of here, we're going to do the rest of our enchilada sauce, and you can just drizzle. I just drizzle and then come back in and, you know, kind of brush over it. Doing a drizzle here. We'll spread it out. So every bite is delicious. And this, you know, there is oil in the enchilada sauce, so I think it makes it just, it bakes up really, really nicely. It gets all nice and golden, a little bit of a crisp on it. And once we cover all of that, we're just going to put the remainder of the cheese. And if you want to heavy hand the cheese and go even more, that is totally fine. I did a Monterey Jack. If you're looking for a better, bigger kick, you can totally do like a pepper jack. If you wanted to add a jalapeno to this recipe for a kick, have at it. I'm not a spice person, but my family is. So if I was making this for them, we'd be adding all of the spicy elements. So we're going to pop this in the oven. First, we're going to cover it in foil. And that's going to keep it from burning. You know, now that we have the cheese on top, we don't want it to get super, super crispy because it's a pretty hot oven. So we're going to do a big piece of foil coming in here, covering, and then we're just going to pop this in the oven. I'm going to run over here and do that. Okay, and now I am going to set my timer for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, we are going to pull the foil off, give it another 5. That's going to get like more of a crisp on the cheese, which I think is really, really delicious. If you wanted to add more cheese at that point, also a good idea. And then setting your own timer is a great idea because we're going to be kind of back and forth here with some other recipes. So I'm going to toss it back to... We are going over to Emily. She's going to start our carrot recipe.
Great. thanks, Lindsay. That looks so good. I should have made that right along with you, but I'll just have to eat it in spirit somehow. So hey everybody, we have some really good recipes cooking up right now, and now it's time to work on some of the side dishes. The first one we're gonna do is the carrots recipe. So I have my oven preheated, y'all already preheated your ovens, so we're good to go there. And then let's just get our recipes out and make sure we have everything we need. So I have everything set up in front of me here, and I am going to begin cutting my carrots. So this recipe calls for the carrots to be cut diagonally. This was not something I had experience with before, but I realized it's really easy. So I'll show you how. Let me make sure I can get my little cutting board in view. There we go. Get all these ingredients out of the way. All right, I've got my knife all ready to go. So the first thing you want to do when you cut your carrots is to cut off the top and bottom. So I'm going to do that first. Just cut a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom. And I love the idea that Lindsay had of the trash bowl, so I went ahead and grabbed myself one too. And then from here, it's really easy. So instead of just cutting the carrot straight on, I don't really know how to show you the best angle, but instead of like straight on, you're simply going to position your knife at a diagonal. So it's really just going from like a 90 degree to like a 45 degree, and that's it. And so you'll just do about 1/4 inch slices with all of your carrots. I am super stoked to be making this recipe again. This is one of my new favorite veggie recipes. It is so flavorful, so good. And I actually used to not be a huge fan of carrots for most of my life until I realized that there are other things you can do with them to make them delicious. So I'm still not a big fan. Sorry, it's kind of loud. I was not a big fan of raw carrots growing up, but now that I know you can roast them and put delicious seasonings in them, I am absolutely a fan. And I'm trying to find the perfect balance of like cutting it hard enough and not also being super loud on this cutting board. And sometimes it's a learning process. I found my rhythm. So I'm just putting my carrots aside in a different bowl, and I actually have the seasonings in it already, but if you don't, we will get there, so don't you worry. Oh, this carrot is particularly small. I'm not gonna get much out of it. And this calls for about 10 to 12 medium-sized carrots. So I have about 12 here. I'm definitely going to make as much as I can because, like I said, I love this recipe. It's super good. All right, I think I'm about 3 or 4 carrots down. I'm not the fastest chopper in the world, but I'll get the job done. If I was chopping all those veggies that Lindsay just had, we might be here for a minute. Now I have a really big carrot. Let's see how this goes. Definitely easier to cut the more medium-sized carrots. I guess I just threw this big one in just for fun. Just gonna cut some of these bigger pieces in half since this carrot is quite large. And if you prefer larger, smaller pieces, that's okay too. Don't think, oh, I have to go this size because that's what the recipe said. It's gonna be your dinner at the end of the day. So if you wanna change up the size of the pieces, that's totally fine. As long as you're using the right amount of carrots for the right amount of spices. All right, that's the big hurdle. Just have a few more regular size ones to go. All this chopping is going to be so worth it in the end because it's going to take everything in my power not to eat the entire thing in one sitting. That's how good it is, in my opinion.
Emily, one of our viewers wants to know where you found that giant carrot.
Yeah, I just saw that in the chat. So I just got a bag of carrots from Kroger. So it was just from the produce section. And I just pulled a few carrots out of the bag and I thought, oh, this is a giant carrot. This is legit. I can use this carrot. So I don't know. That bunch of carrots must have just been built different. Had some really good growing conditions. Okay, I just have a couple more. Annie says it's perfect. I agree, Annie. So I just have a couple more to do. I'm not sure where everyone else is at with their chopping, but I bet most of you are faster than me. I'm not even gonna lie. And I am okay with that. Okay, so I've got all my carrots ready. And the next thing you want to do is gather all of your spices. So your cumin, your chili powder, and your salt in a bowl with 2 tablespoons of canola oil. So here's my canola oil that I measured out. You're gonna put everything, including the carrots, in that bowl and just give it a nice toss. So I'm just gonna grab my spoon here and just get everything all mixed together. I want it to get nice and coated in all the yummy spices and seasonings. All right, so now that the carrots are ready, I'm going to demo cutting cilantro because that's what we'll be using as a garnish. Of course, if you're not a cilantro fan, feel free to skip this. But just like Lindsay and her garlic, I am kind of a cilantro fiend, so I will certainly not be skipping this step. So you want to get about a tablespoon for garnish. I just sort of eyeball it as like a small, medium little bunch of cilantro. So if you want to measure it out, but it'll be easier to measure out once we cut it. Okay. So the way that I chop cilantro is pretty easy. I just put my little bunch here on the cutting board. I like to give a little pinch where the stems end and the leaves begin. So I give it a little pinch just to see where I'm going. take my knife and just cut those stems off. And then you just take the rest of it and you just make a little rocking motion. That's my oven. Rocking motion. And then I like to switch it to cutting from a different angle. And then you just keep chopping it until it is the consistency, or rather the size that you want. So if you want it super thin, you'll chop it for longer. If you want it more coarse, you will stop. Awesome. So I'm pretty happy with mine. And now at this time, I will just set it aside for later. Then I'll just take my carrots, bring them over to my little oven setup, and not take my computer plug straight out of the wall. So here we are. I'm just gonna spread them out on my baking sheet. We'll try to get a pretty even layer. You can feel free to use a utensil. I don't mind getting my hands a little dirty, so I'm just gonna freehand it. And I'm really happy with my big pieces and my little pieces. I think that makes it fun. All right, and then I'm going to put these in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. I'll set a timer, and you can feel free to set your own if you have other ones going on as well. And then also, if you like, you can open the oven about halfway through the cook time and give them a nice little stir just to get everything mixed around. And then when we're done with that, we'll just garnish it with our cilantro, as well as, I believe, 2 tablespoons. Yes, 2 tablespoons of lime juice. And now that we have the carrots all set up to go, I'm going to take us through the mango avocado salad. I'm just going to clear my space a little bit and get all of those ingredients ready. I'm also going to rinse off my knife. It's kind of covered in carrots and cilantro right now. All right, so in addition to the yummy carrots, I'm also such a fan of this mango, avocado, and black bean salad. It's super vibrant, it has a lot of really fun flavors, and it's really easy to put together. So the first thing that we are going to cut up is our avocado. So for this, I just like to cut the avocado in half long ways. Of course, you have that pit in the middle. Oh, mine has a very small pit. You never know what you're gonna get. Well, yours probably has a larger pit than mine, but the avocado looks great, so I have no issues with that. But just remove the pit from it. I'm gonna grab a spoon. Get my little trash bowl. I've never seen a pit so small before. Okay, so I'm gonna just make cubes. So I'm gonna cut through, and I'm not gonna cut all the way through the skin, but I'm gonna make cuts in the avocado. I'm gonna go long ways, and then, or I guess I'm going short ways and then long ways to make little cubes. I can hear my carrots roasting. They sound really good. Okay, so I'm going to put this avocado in a small to medium bowl and just take it out of the skin. And then I'm also going to mix this with 1 tablespoon of the lime juice. I'm going to be using an actual lime to do this. So if you are going to do the same, you can grab your lime. If you just have pre-made lime juice, that's also totally fine. So the rule of thumb is approximately 1 lime will equate to 2 tablespoons of lime juice. So I have just enough right here for this recipe. And since we're only doing 1 tablespoon for the avocado, I'll just do half of this for the avocado and save half of it for the dressing. So I just like to cut my lime in smaller pieces so it's easier to juice. I do not have a fancy citrus juicer, so I'll just be using the power of my hands. Use whatever is easiest for you, whatever you have on hand. And I think someone needs to demo me how to cut a lime, but I got the job done. So I'll just take half of my lime and just squeeze it right into the bowl with the avocado. You want to give it a nice good juice. Try not to leave anything behind. And once you get your avocado and your lime in the bowl, you'll just want to give that a good toss. So this will really incorporate that into our avocado and get it all ready for the rest of the ingredients. Perfect. So next, we will be doing, I believe, our mango. Yep, our mango and our jalapeno. So we'll set the avocado aside for now. I'm also going to set aside the rest of my lime for later. We'll do the mango. I'll be doing the mango right now. And so the best way that I've found to cut this guy, I'm still not the mango expert, I will admit, but I'm getting better. So the best way that I found to cut it is to first just cut it like a third on either side, and then you'll have the middle part with the pit. So I'll just cut it kind of as close to where I can feel some resistance and cut off that piece. And then I'll do the same on the other side. Okay, awesome. This is a big mango. So then we'll do cubes for this as well. So it's pretty similar to the avocado. I'll just be making cuts both ways, but trying not to cut completely through the skin. And it is a process. So however you can get it. For example, I just cut through the skin, but that's okay. I will carry on. And you'll pretty much do the same for the middle. Obviously, you won't be cutting like through the skin. You'll be kind of cutting to the middle. So just kind of make those cuts until you feel that give. There's not much give on this side, I'll tell you what. I just want to do that, and then I have quite a bit of skin on this guy, so I'll have to do a little bit of peeling, but that's okay. Like I said, not the mango expert, but I get better every time, I'd like to think. So you can kind of gather your mango chunks in several different ways. One way that has been really helpful to me is just getting a spoon and taking this part and just kind of opening it up and then just spooning it out. And also using the power of my thumbs a little bit. Yeah, for me, it's going to be easier to just use my thumbs, but sometimes it's easier to do the spoon or to try to do a little peel. Whatever works best for you and whatever gets you where you need to go. That's one of my favorite things about cooking is there's really no right or wrong way. It's kind of whatever works for you. All right, I got a third of my mango down. I'm going to do this second third real quick. So why you'll also always see me with a little towel next to me is I am not afraid to get messy if that's what it takes. Okay, now going to my middle part. I think I'm just gonna do a little rough peel here, just since I had so much skin left over. That'll make it easier. And then just kind of feel that out. Yep. Make a few more cuts because I did not do a great job at cubing it last time. Okay. I will say this mango looks super juicy and I'm really excited about that. Sometimes you never know what kind of mango you're gonna get. Okay. Apologize for that loud cutting noise. You know how it be. Okay. So I am pretty happy with how much mango that I'm going to be able to get out of that. I might add a little bit more at the end, but in the interest of time, the next thing we're going to be doing is our jalapeno. And I'm going to take the precaution of grabbing a different cutting board and knife for that, just so I don't have to worry about cleaning everything. So I don't have to worry about cleaning everything and also just getting spicy things all over my cutting board. So here's this. Okay, so jalapeno, we're gonna need about half of this guy. The first thing I'm going to do is cut off the top. Toss that aside. You can also wear gloves if you have them available. I do not have that, so I'm just going to be careful with what I'm touching. I'm probably going to want to wash my hands real quick after. So you cut it lengthwise after you cut the top off, just in half, And then I'm going to grab another spoon and just scoop the seeds out. So like Lindsay was saying earlier, these seeds can be pretty spicy. In fact, they're the spiciest part of the pepper. So I always try to get all of my seeds out so that way I can enjoy my jalapeno without being in pain. I'm just gonna scoop that out into my trash bowl here, or if you have your trash can handy, I would go over to that. I'm not really afraid to touch the seeds or anything as long as I'm just aware of what I'm touching next. So that is up to you, what you're comfortable with. I think most people can handle spicy food better than me, but I'm working on it. I really do like it. And I know jalapenos aren't even that spicy to some people. For me, they are. All right, so I'm only using half, so I'm going to de-seed the other half and then set it aside. Great. Like everything else we've been cutting, I'm going to do a nice dice on this guy, so get the last of my seeds out of here. And just do a little nice dice. So I like to have this like inside part facing up just to keep it a little more stable for me and to help me see what I'm doing. A couple more seeds try to creep on me, but now they're all gone. Thank goodness. I'm just gonna cut it one way and then the other way. I'm just going to set that aside. And I'm going to give my hands a real quick wash before I touch other things. Okay, now that we have our mango, our jalapeno, and our avocado all chopped up, the next thing I'm gonna do is add my jalapeno and my mango to the avocado mixture. Get this cutting board out of here. As you can tell, I'm not paranoid about jalapeno at all. That doesn't mean you have to be though. So I'm just adding my mango and jalapeno. I'm gonna give that a good mix with the avocado and the lime juice. And now I will set this aside for a moment. Okay, so now I've got my big bowl. My big bowl has my salt, my pepper, and my sugar. I'm also gonna do a lime zest for you. So this is pretty easy as well. You can use whatever sort of grater apparatus you have available to you. I just have this big one, so that's what I'll be using. And we're going to need about half a teaspoon. So in my experience, that might be a lime and then some. I'm probably just gonna do this lime since this is what I have right here. But feel free to add a little bit more if you find that it's not making enough. So I am going to grab my cutting board back. Should have kept that a little closer to me, no worries though. So here's my non-jalapeno cutting board. It's just gonna give me a nice hard surface. I'm gonna take some finer parts of this grater. Yeah, I'm gonna post the finer parts of this grater and I'm just gonna start zesting. This would probably also be a good time to check on your carrots if you wanna do that. Give them a nice little stir. But I'll just be here zesting. It smells really good. You can tell it works. So you just have to do it a couple times in each spot. You don't have to go super hard. This is what mine looks like right here. So it's just until you see the skin kind of wear off. And I just like to go all around my lime. This one's a little tougher. I gotta give it more oomph. That's doing it. Okay, let me see what I've got. Yep, I'll just want to do a little bit more. It looks like one lime is actually going to be perfect. All right, great. So I'm going to check on my carrots briefly, and then I'm going to add the lime zest in. Okay, and I checked on mine a little late, so they'll actually be done pretty soon. But now I just have my lime zest here, and I'm just going to add that in with my other seasonings. Okay, and we're going to make the rest of the dressing. So I'm going to use the rest of this lime over here and squeeze it in for my lime juice. First, I will drop the lime in the bowl, and then I will squeeze it. So the reason why I had a second lime that I was zesting is because I'm going to juice that one and add it to my carrots. Realistically, I could have zested the other one as well, but that's just not how we roll today. Okay, so I've got my salt, pepper, sugar, lime juice, and lime zest. The next thing I'm going to add is none of that, my whisk. All right, I'm just gonna whisk this together real quick, get everything nice and incorporated. And then I will add the olive oil, that's right. So once you whisk those ingredients together, I have some 2 tablespoons of olive oil pre-measured, and I will slowly be adding that until it looks like everything is incorporated. You'll also want to add in, if you like cilantro, 2 tablespoons. And that is the thing that I forgot about. But better late than never, am I right? So I'm going to chop some more of that up briefly and add that into this dressing. Going to give it a nice little pinch and cut. Had a stray stem, get that out of there. All right. So I'm rocking back and forth in several directions to get it all nice and chopped up. Ooh, it's smelling really good. I love cilantro. I'm gonna try to go a little finer for this, personally. I love it. Okay, add that in there too if you haven't already. And since I added this in late, I'm gonna of course give it another nice whisk to get everything incorporated. My carrots are about to be done, just in time for the salad. Okay, so I'm gonna get this cutting board out of here. And the last step is to add everything back in. So we have our avocado, mango, and jalapeno mixture. And then I also have my black beans, which I already rinsed and drained. And I'm gonna add those in as well. Once you add everything in, just give it a nice little toss. Get everything incorporated one last time. Throw some black beans around the kitchen if you're feeling spicy. I'm not going to use my whisk because I'm not trying to break up all of my cubes. I'm going to use my spoon. Oh my gosh, it smells really good. And then if you'd like to, you can garnish it with even more cilantro. Okay, awesome. So here's my salad. I'm really excited to eat it. I'm gonna take my carrots out of the oven, and then I'm gonna hand it back over to Annie to finish our truffles.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. So while she was doing that, I made my own little version of the carrots because I made them once before and they were so good. And I just want to show you what's left because my roommates have been through here and we all love them. There they are. So you guys are eating good tonight. Fun tip, if you use the Trader Joe's chili lime seasoning, it's very good. So we're going to switch gears here and go back to the truffles. We just have a couple minutes left. So we'll pull out our chocolate mixture. And hopefully it is a little bit more solidified. Well, hopefully it's very solidified so that we can use a spoon and our hands and make little balls. If it's not fully solidified yet, just leave it in the fridge and maybe come back to it after dinner. So we're going to test mine. Mine is still pretty soft, but around the edges, there's some parts that are malleable enough. And I'll just give you guys a quick little demo on one of them, and then we can be done and you can enjoy your wonderful food. So yeah, mine is definitely not super solidified yet, but you're just going to form it into a ball, take a spoon, scoop some out, whatever size you want. And then I'm going to stick it on a plate and wipe my hands really fast. And then what you can do is put cocoa powder down on a plate, cinnamon, more cayenne if you're feeling spicy. You can use matcha powder if you like matcha, chocolate chips, more ground chocolate, nuts, seeds, really anything that you want to put on this. You can just roll it around in. So I was thinking I would do a little bit. Here, I'll move you guys back over here so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I'm going to put a little bit of cinnamon. And I'm going to make this one with a little bit of cayenne because why not? So I'm just going to give it a little shake. And then I have some cocoa powder here. We'll put some of that on there. And then I'm just going to take this little ball that I made, which again, mine didn't get super hard in the fridge yet. So if yours are still too gooey, maybe just wait until after you're done eating. And then we're just going to roll it around so it gets all that good stuff on there. And voila, you have a truffle. Definitely doesn't look super pretty, but it's okay. There you are. And that's all that we have for you. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you all enjoy your dinner. This was super fun.
Thank you so much, Annie, and thank you, Lindsay and Emily, Kendall Reagan Nutrition Center. We appreciate your partnership so much. And thank you everyone for being here with us this evening. We hope that for those of you who cooked along, you have the most amazing meal ahead of you. We do have a post-event survey linked in the comments. If you would please take a couple of moments to fill that out. We greatly appreciate your feedback. Have a beautiful Wednesday evening, and thanks so much for being here.